Tonight on the program, an exclusive interview with the Governor of the Bank of Thailand on interest rates and the country's GDP growth. We also have special interviews with the first Thai female chef to earn 2 Michelin stars, and a NASA astronaut who discusses the importance of STEM education. Sawadee-ka, I'm Nad Bunag and welcome to This Week with Thai PBS World. We begin tonight with our exclusive interview. Recently, Suthichai Yun talked to the Governor of the Bank of Thailand, Sethaput Suthiwat Naruput. Despite the tension between the central bank and the government, his main concerns for the Thai economy include several issues, one of them being structural reforms, the promotion of foreign direct investment, exports and tourism.
Governor Sethaput, how is Thailand doing in terms of its economic situation and the forecast that the Bank of Thailand is giving to 2024?
Yeah. Our interim guidance for the economic forecast this year, which we put out the last MPC statement, pending our official release at the next MPC meeting in April, was that we expect to see GDP growth this year in the range of 2.5 to 3%, which is not great. It's a bit lower than what we had forecast, but it's still growth, positive growth, and it's an ongoing recovery.
As the governor of the central bank, what's your main concern now?
Domestic consumption has held up quite well, but the things that we're looking forward to try to help sustain a recovery are exports and tourism, because our reliance. And on this, I have to say, I think we have some advantages on this front. We just need to realize them, actualize
you mean we have
them.
Advantages that we don't know about?
No, well, we know about them, but we're not taking full advantage of them as we should.
Such as?
As we know, right now, there's a lot of geopolitical tension.
Yeah.
But if you look at that, I would argue that we're actually not that poorly positioned to take advantage of some of those, that realignment.
And we don't have that many conflicts with China compared to many other countries.
Yeah. We don't have an issue in the South China Sea, unlike other countries with China. We're a good friend to China. We're also, by history, by tradition, by many things, a very, very close friend of the United States.
Yeah.
We are a major, one of the few, one of not many, I should say, major, that has a status of being a major non-NATO U.S. ally.
Right. They all love us, but we have not taken enough advantage
exactly.
of the affinity.
Yes, that's the
So what have we not done right in this connection?
We haven't made ourselves sufficiently attractive to those production networks. So, for example, I think one thing that we've seen, which is unfortunate, is we've seen over the years that our market share, for example, in attracting foreign direct investment has dropped steadily over time.
Yes.
We know there are a lot of bright lights out there that are very attractive. People are in love with the Indonesia, Vietnam story. There's a lot of FDI going there.
Your relations with the Prime Minister has been in the headlines, both locally and internationally. How do you describe your relationships with Prime Minister Sethaput?
Oh, as I mentioned, they're professional and cordial.
Cordial?
Cordial, yes. It's never a good thing, I think, when the central bank is on the front page of the newspaper.
No news is good news.
No news is good news, yes. Yeah, so it's not something that we...
So what basically is the issue between you and the Prime Minister?
Oh, I think it comes from the fact that we have different roles to play and that we wear different hats. I think it's an issue that we see not just in Thailand, but I think in many countries, where there's this natural tension. I called it a creative tension.
Creative tension. You don't enjoy it, but it's creative,
it's
right?
creative. It's there between the government and the central bank. I mean, the government obviously tends to favor growth. The central bank, by nature of its mandate, it tends to put a significant weight on stability.
Yes.
Governments tend to be shorter term in orientation. The central bank, again, tends to look at longer term issues. And then by nature, we need to look at things in a much more holistic fashion, take into account unintended consequences of different measures. Mm-hmm. So I think that leads to that difference of opinion and that creative tension.
Well, you're under great pressure from the government to reduce interest rates. How do you react to that?
It's part of the job to be under pressure. Yeah.
How do you explain to the government, or I would say the politicians, that you have your role to play and they have their own role to play?
Yeah.
But they seem to think that you are not being realistic, that you do not understand the common people's problems.
Yeah.
You people are up there in the ivory tower.
Right.
So are you up there?
I think, again, it comes that difference comes from the fact that we're wearing different hats and we have that different emphasis. The short term versus long term, right? Looking at growth versus stability and how do you weigh those things? That's what's accounting for the difference in opinion regarding the policies. But again, in terms of explaining our policy stance and our policy decisions, which again I would like to emphasize are the policy decisions of the Monetary Policy Committee, not just me or the Bank of Thailand, because the Monetary Policy Committee in Thailand, which is fairly unique actually, it's not the same as with other countries. We have seven people. We have 7 people on the Monetary Policy Committee. What's different in Thailand compared to a lot of other countries, a lot of other central banks, is there are more outside members on the committee than there are internal Bank of Thailand people. So again, I want to emphasize that the decisions that are taken are from the Monetary Policy Committee, not just from the Bank of Thailand or at the behest of the governor. I cannot, in principle or in practice, dictate what the interest rate will be.
So you don't think lowering the interest rates has anything to do with the trying to boost the economy, to stimulate the economy, as the government has suggested? They are suggesting that if you cut interest rates, it would stimulate the economy. But you are saying that it may not be that direct, the relationship.
No, what we're saying is it has to be balanced with a lot of different things. Would lowering rates tend to have a stimulative impact on the economy? The short answer is yes, it would tend to have a stimulative impact on the economy. But one, that has to be balanced with the other considerations that we have on the table, notably things like financial stability, because the other thing that we have that is of quite high concern for us, we have very high level of household debt. Household debt is like 90+% of GDP. That does not bode well for long-term financial stability. The second point also is a stimulative impact, getting back to more directly to your question, may not be that large. Why? Because if you look at the reason that growth has tended to underperform, it has to do with factors like our exports are not doing as well as we had expected, and that has a lot to do with structural factors, I think. So it's again, taking that totality of factors into account and taking into account some of the longer-term implications that caused the majority of the MPC members to decide to keep rates at where they were, at 2.5%, which in the press is usually referred to as decade-high interest rates. But I would also point out, while that is true, it is also true that it is also among the lowest in the world. There are 2 countries out there that have interest rates, policy rates that are lower than ours, which is Japan and Switzerland. But the point is that, compared to other countries, it's not, alarmingly high. It's certainly not the level that we see in other countries. But again, I'm not saying that that's the main factor in deciding what to do with rates. We will look first and foremost at domestic factors. But
thank you very much, Governor.
Thank you.
You can watch the full 20-minute exclusive interview with Theput on Thai PBS World's YouTube channel. Still on economics and development, our reporter Frank Han-Chi talked to the chairperson of the Equitable Education Fund about why foundational skills in Thai youth and adults are still below threshold levels and what should be done about it.
Thailand is facing a skills crisis. 64.7% of youth and adults can barely read text, and 74.1% of them cannot undertake computing skills. Thailand's government should enhance the effectiveness in education and training system in fostering foundational skills. A World Bank and Equitable Education Fund report shows that the foundational skills of a very large proportion of Thai youth and adults are below threshold level. The alarming data indicates that 30.3% also lack social-emotional skills, as they tend not to take social initiatives or be curious and imaginative. Chair of EEF said the government should implement concrete actions to facilitate learning.
การลงทุนในทุนมนุษย์อย่างทักษะทุนชีวิตรวมทั้งการลงทุนในมาตรการอื่นๆที่เกี่ยวข้องถือเป็นการแก้ไขปัญหาความยากจนข้ามรุ่นและการพาประเทศไทยออกจากกับดักรายได้ปานกลางที่ตรงจุดและมีความคุ้มค่าทางเศรษฐกิจและสังคมสูงสุดที่ต้องการนำจากรัฐบาลในการส่งเสริมให้ทุกหน่วยงานทุกภาคส่วนได้ร่วมกันใช้ประโยชน์จากงานวิจัยฉบับนี้สู่การปฏิบัติแก่ประชาชนคนไทยทุกคน
Due to a large proportion of the population possessing digital and literacy skills below threshold levels, an astonishing 3.3 trillion baht equivalent to 20.1% of Thailand's 2021 GDP could be lost. The report suggests the Thai government should invest in skills development from early childhood and at the provincial level.
ตลอดจนประชาชนทั่วไปด้วยนะครับให้ผ่านการศึกษาและการฝึกอบรมเพื่อสร้างโอกาสและเส้นทางสู่การสร้างงานสร้างรายได้ที่ดีขึ้นเช่นนโยบาย Thailand Zero Dropout หรือ Learn to Earn สำหรับทุกช่วงวัยเพื่อส่งเสริมให้เกิดการพัฒนาทักษะการเรียนรู้จากการปฏิบัติจริงในการประกอบอาชีพ
An example from Colombia shows that provincial authorities have been given the chance to innovate and improve equity in education since the country implemented a decentralized education policy in 1991. Colombia's former Minister of Education said that the national government should provide more money to local authorities to enhance inclusiveness through a decentralized policy.
It's very important to strengthen local capacities. Gradual process must be generated and the innovation in the territory and collaborative work must be strengthened. It's not easy, but it's really important if we want to work together with the local authorities. That is why intentionality of education policy have focused in equity. I think that in the case of Thailand, is an important goal. Not only improve education, improve equity.
While these experts push the Thai government to create equal opportunities in education, the biggest challenge is to transform a skills crisis to a learning society. Frank Kanshi, Thai PBS World, reporting in Bangkok.
And improving the quality of education is the most important thing, and it should be an urgent issue for the government. And now let's have a look at the other stories in our weekly roundup. Prime Minister Sethar Thavisin visited the three southernmost provinces of Pattani, Yala, and Narathiwat this week, aiming to promote tourism in the region. He said the three provinces boast numerous tourist attractions and the government aims to develop these provinces into tourism centers. Currently, the region attracts approximately 1.6 million tourists annually. Students and alumni of Rajamankala University of Technology Tawan Awk Utain Thawai campus protested against the planned relocation of their institute from the grounds of Chulalongkorn University to a proposed site in Samut Prakan province. The protesters submitted a letter to the Ministry of Higher Education, Science, Research and Innovations demanding self-determination in the management of the institute and its conversion to state property. Officials from the Pollution Control Department have started testing the air quality around a chemical storage warehouse in Ayutthaya province following a fire last night. It took firemen more than 6 hours to bring the blaze under control using chemical foam. The Ayutthaya governor said that there are about 200 households within a 1-kilometer radius of the warehouse, but no one has reported suffering from smoke inhalation. No evacuation was ordered during or after the fire. Thai Parliament accepted in principle draft laws relating to the rights of children of ethnic and migrant workers. Among the 5 bills proposed is a draft by the Ministry of Culture. According to social experts, giving these children equal rights to education and healthcare could help maintain the future labor force while the birth rate among Thais is declining. And now in this episode of Empowering Thai Women, I had a chance to talk to Chef Tam Chudaree Debhakam, who recently won 2 Michelin stars for her restaurant, the first Thai female chef to be awarded this recognition. As the culinary industry remains male-dominated, she discusses how she navigated challenges in the kitchen as a young Asian woman.
When they announced the awards, I was very shocked. Very surprised about, the results. I think we wasn't expecting anything more than, really just retaining the 1 star that we had, and that was our goal. It was never in our minds to be like, okay, no, we're gonna strive for the second one.
Congratulations to Ban Tepa Bangkok!
Chudaree Debhakam, also known as Chef Tam, is the first Thai female chef to receive 2 Michelin stars for her restaurant Ban Tepa during the 2024 Michelin Guide Thailand ceremony. She also received the Young Chef Award at the same event. Chudaree recalled the moment when the announcement was made, which came as a huge surprise to herself and her team, considering that maintaining a Michelin star is already a challenge for any restaurant.
They would first announce all the 1 stars, right? And then they were like, okay, now we're moving on to the 2 stars. And then I was just like, what about us? Like, did we lose a star? Like, what happened? So my sister was behind me and I was looking at her like, dude, what did you do? Did we do something wrong? And everyone was like, oh my God, I think you got 2 stars. That's unexpected and shocked, but also so freaking proud of my team, because honestly, the past year, I've been traveling so much, but the fact that we were recognized in that way is really the team's effort.
Chudaree first came to Thai people's attention in 2017 as the winner of Top Chef Thailand. Her journey as a chef came accidentally, however, considering that she graduated with a food science and nutrition degree in the UK. It all began when she took a summer internship in a kitchen during her studies. After realizing her passion, Chudaree then moved to New York for an intensive culinary course before assuming the sous chef position at Blue Hill at Stone Barns. Along the way, the biggest challenge for her was navigating a male-dominated industry as a young Asian woman in the kitchen.
Yeah, it was definitely very tough. They're not wrong in saying that this industry is very much male-dominated, and it is that sort of male energy as well that first time I was in a kitchen, I was very shocked, but I know that I had to sort of adapt to my environment, to be a little bit more boisterous and to be able to handle comments and things that I know that are a bit inappropriate. So it was tricky, but I think with the right sort of attitude and mindset, I was able to understand how to handle different situations and cope and not take things super personally. Just understand how things are and has been for a long time, and how do I navigate myself in that sort of realm, that I don't completely lose myself. So it was sort of building an armor for myself to survive in that environment.
Meanwhile, Chudaree also feels that women remain underrepresented in the professional culinary scene, especially in Thailand, as there weren't many female role models in the kitchen that she could look up to. Although she does see a change, with more women taking up leadership roles such as head chefs and restaurant managers, Chudaree strongly believes that there should be more opportunities for young female chefs to become leaders in the kitchen.
There are a lot more, I think there are stronger female chef personalities in the US just because they're a bit more, developed in terms of their industry. Here, I think it's still behind. It's still male dominated, but I think there must be, some changes and more room for young female cooks to sort of grow into higher positions. So the opportunity for younger cooks coming up now, I think, is huge. It's much bigger than what it was. And I just want to be sort of that voice, that tells them a bit that you can do it too,
Having achieved several milestones and successes in her career, Chudaree takes pride in representing Thai women in gastronomy. Despite that, her definitions of success are not only the recognition and the list of awards, but in having a restaurant that sustains itself, which she believes is her ultimate goal.
As a chef, I think is to have a successful restaurant, a successful business that also sort of sustains itself, but it's something that also helps the community around it, whether it's the farmers, the producers, the food and beverage industry as a whole, young cooks that are coming through, people who come in front of house, back of house service, and just to create something that has an impact all around, with the environment, with the people that are around us, yeah.
As to what she would like to say to inspire other women and young girls today, the Ban Thepha chef and owner emphasized 3 things: perseverance, discipline, and tell yourself that you can do it. In other words, anything can be achieved as long as you set your mind to it.
And even though some challenges are harder than others, I think perseverance, discipline, and just encouraging yourself a little bit helps also. As a woman in this industry, I think I face a few more challenges, let's say, than men. It's not as easy to rise above situations, but I think it takes a lot of practice and time, and I believe that everyone can do it.
And now let's move on to STEM education. Charles Governor, who's a retired NASA astronaut, is currently working with the Umbrella Education to inspire young Thais to learn about space and science. Thai PBS World asked him what encouraged him to become an astronaut and what is it like to work in space.
Since I was a young kid, I was inspired by the Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo astronauts. I always wanted to fly, and I thought flying as an astronaut would kind of be the ultimate flight experience, and I haven't been wrong.
Suiting up before the flight here.
In the grand narrative of space exploration, Charles Governor's name stands out not just for his achievements in orbit, but for his journey from humble beginnings to the stars. As a former astronaut with an illustrious career at NASA, Governor's experiences in the great beyond offer a glimpse into the challenges and triumphs faced by those who dare to venture into space. Governor's spaceflight career is highlighted by 3 missions: STS-38 or Atlantis, STS-48 or Discovery, and STS-62 or Columbia, each making their own unique contributions to space exploration and research.
So the job at NASA is, you're there for 12 years, you fly in space 24 days in my case. Yeah. So there's a lot of time spent doing other things. So, all the astronauts have other, assignments. So I've done software development, software testing. I was the engineering liaison officer to the Kennedy Space Center as a representative of the astronaut office. I worked in the Mission Control Center as a capsule communicator, so we always have an astronaut that does all the communication between the spacecraft and the ground. So I did that for about 11 flights. I even ran the public appearance office where we coordinated astronaut appearances for a year. I did that work as well. So, all of the jobs are kind of to support the manned space program, and then throughout those jobs, you're going to get pulled in and out of that to fly missions.
24 days, 5 hours, and 38 minutes in space. What have you learned from the experience there?
Well, I learned a couple things. I learned that it's a lot harder to get there and work in than we thought, or than I thought for sure. The access to space, it's a lot more dangerous than we thought, and it's a lot more costly than we thought. Yeah. Now, those are kind of the negatives. On the other side, the positives is that, with all the advances that we've made in space and space technology and miniaturization and all of the components that are necessary to get to space that help us every day here on the planet, that's been a great story, right? Yeah. I mean, computers that used to fill this room are now in your Apple. Wow. Your iPhone. So those are great stories. The satellites that we put up in space have told us much about our own planet and allows us to make informed decisions about what we need to do to protect the place that we live every day and we come and work in every day. We monitor crops, we monitor the oceans, we monitor pollution, we monitor ozone content. We have a complete data set now of the atmospheric chemistry and winds of the upper atmosphere. I mean, those are just a few examples of some of the benefits.
3 missions into space. Tell me more about your routine there.
So you get up in the morning, you take care of your personal hygiene, meal preparation, housekeeping tasks. We still have to vacuum filters, we still have to clean, we still have to eat breakfast and eat a meal.
Many
and those
jobs.
We have to do wastewater dumps, we have to do star alignments, we have to do state vector updates. I mean, we have to look through our test plan for the day and update that to make sure there's no changes. So those are just a few things. We're looking at weather across the world to make sure that we understand if we had to do an abort, we know which airport we're going to use has a suitable weather for an abort, as an example. Same thing before we go to bed. We're going to do a number of those housekeeping tasks. We're going to do meal preparation. We're going to get ready for sleep. All of that stuff takes place in those 3 hours before or after sleep period. And then that 10 hours in the middle is really devoted to science.
Wow. So what's your best memory, or what's your best moment in the space?
Yeah, Jeff, the best moment is just literally looking out the window, watching the world go by. Yeah, I mean, you look back at the planet and you just, I mean, it's a magnificent view. It's ever-changing. On my second flight, my hometown was always in darkness. South Dakota, which is where I grew up in the middle of the States, was always in darkness. And on the last day of my second mission, we had to delay one orbit because of weather. So on that last orbit, the South Dakota came into daylight, in a daylight pass. And so I had the opportunity to look at all the places I grew up in, hung out in as a kid, and so that was a great memory. But the world is a beautiful place to look at from that vantage point, and at the same time, it's extremely humbling.
I'd love to be there to see the world from that point also.
Yeah, and it's very humbling, right? To think that you're off the planet.
Kittipat Chun Sukjit, reporting for Thai PBS World.
There's part 2 of the interview next week, so do stay tuned. And that wraps up tonight's edition of This Week with Thai PBS World. Join us every Friday at 10:30 p.m. only on Thai PBS. And don't forget to follow us on social media, including our website, thaipbsworld.com, for all the latest updates about Thailand as well as analyses. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week. สวัสดีค่ะ